Tonight on Ukraine Today, resistance to Putinism is growing. A Russian Su-30 fighter jet has been destroyed. We'll show you how it happened. Footage from the body cams of Special Operation Forces. Ukrainian troops wiped out an entire squad of North Koreans in the Kursk region. Appeasement of Russia, or why we live in a dystopia. What connects today's reality and George Orwell's novel 1984? Peacekeeping absurdity. According to Bloomberg, the US will demand that Russia recognize Ukraine's right to have its own army. Western aid. Who controls the money Ukraine gets from the US and Europe, and how? All this and more on Ukraine Today. Hi, we are from Ukraine. My name is Volodymyr Robchun. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's begin. Resistance to Putinism is growing. A Russian Su-30 fighter jet has been destroyed. This was confirmed by Ukraine's military intelligence. A multi-purpose fighter jet, Su-30, caught fire and burned down at Rostov-on-Don Central Airfield. Estimated cost of this Russian jet, $50 million. Estimated value of Ukrainian lives saved, priceless. Karma always strikes back. In Russia, someone blew up a war criminal from the general staff. His name was Yaroslav Moskalik. It happened in Balashikha, Moscow region. According to the media, a car exploded and the occupier was thrown several meters by the blast. We are waiting for more details. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces destroyed a whole squad of North Koreans in the Kursk region. And in just a moment, we'll show you body cam footage from Ukraine's Special Operation Forces. By the way, Russia has already lost almost 1 million soldiers, killed and wounded. Maybe that's why Sergei Shoigu, secretary of Russia's Security Council, started threatening the world with nuclear weapons again. Oh, and there's more. Russia's army now has a new goal: to reach the Dnipropetrovsk region by May 9th. That's according to Ukraine's military. So when we hear that Putin is ready to stop the war at the current front line, we just have a bitter smile. And I think Russia's neighbors should prepare for the worst. And they are. Full story in our report.
Ukrainian Special Operations Forces destroyed a platoon of North Korean soldiers in close combat in the Kursk region. This event took place last month, but for security reasons, our military can only talk about it now. They were neutralized with no chance of recovery. In the north, border guards turned an enemy radar station to ashes with FPV drone strikes. -10. Near Vovchansk, border guards from the Guard Brigade delivered precise strikes on enemy positions. Dozens of occupiers and a communication antenna were destroyed. Slowly, gradually, the losses of the occupiers in the war against Ukraine are approaching 1 million. In the last day, the Russian army lost 1060 soldiers at the front, along with 5 armored combat vehicles, 3 tanks, and nearly 50 artillery systems.
This process, it concerns the mass destruction of Russian servicemen by the Russian military command. It could stretch on indefinitely. They are using tactics from World War II, the so-called Strukhovщина, that is using numerical superiority as the main component to achieve both tactical and strategic goals.
Despite the fact that the Russians have already significantly committed to the war, there are not enough people at the front. Putin was advised by the well-known failed warrior Apti Alaudinov to draft another 1 million people for slaughter.
European states with their 2 boats, 3 motorcycles and 2 bicycles. They try to threaten us, but they would immediately back down.
But it seems that no one listens to this nonsense anymore, and the Kremlin dictator...
Of course, if we had a resource behind us, 1 million people that we could deploy at any time, no one would, as they say, flaunt their bravado in front of us. Everyone would be eager to do anything just to prevent us from reaching them with that 1 million. That's my opinion. But for me, above all, is the opinion of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, because it's his decision.
Despite colossal losses, the Russian army does not abandon the maniacal idea of reaching the borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region.
The possibility of reaching the administrative borders of the DNR was reported back in January, such a notorious one. German journalist Julian Revke reported sensational details at the time that, according to his estimates, there were 6 to 7 kilometers left to the borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region. At the moment, it's the end of April, and as we can see, these kilometers deeper have become a thorn in the side for the Russians.
Not calming down in any way, everything indicates that the occupiers are preparing for another offensive on the administrative borders of the Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk regions, reports the Ukrainian tactical group Ukhlidar.
At the moment, the Ukrainian defense forces are conducting a series of stabilization measures in the Pokrovsk direction on both flanks, nullifying the possibilities of an operational encirclement of the Ukrainian group and effectively removing the issue of a breakthrough of the Russian occupation forces directly to the borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region.
Amid the offensive actions of the Russian army, the information that appears to be an outright bluff is that Putin is ready to halt the full-scale invasion of Ukraine at the current front line as part of efforts to reach a peace agreement being conducted with the head of the White House, Donald Trump. After all, promises to Trump do not mean the end of the war and the killing of civilians. Moreover, Ukraine is convinced of this every day.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Ukraine is fighting for freedom. Support independent Ukrainian journalism so we can keep telling you the truth about this war. Click the link down in the description below and become our sponsor. Together to victory. Today, Kyiv has declared a day of mourning. That's because of Russia's massive combined attack on the capital. On the night of April 24th, Russian terrorists killed 12 civilians, including 2 children. 87 people were injured. I think after such events, we expected a strong, clear, angry reaction from the main sheriff, the President of the United States. And we got it, kind of. But there are some questions. On Truth Social, Trump wrote this: "I'm not happy with the Russian strike on Kyiv. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done." Let me read this out loud the way I think Putin might read it. "I'm not happy with the Russian strike on Kyiv. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop." Not necessary? So it's like, you could do it, but better not right now, because we are already pressuring Ukraine to give you land. And very bad timing? So there is a very good timing to kill 12 civilians, including 2 kids? Later, at the meeting with Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre, Trump said he believes both Ukraine and Russia want peace. And then he mentioned a deadline, but again, without details.
I don't like that it takes long at all, but I think they both want to make peace. I do believe so. There's a lot of hatred there. There's a lot of very bad blood, a lot of distrust. But I think I hope we're going to get there for the sake of a lot of young people that are dying. I have my own deadline, and we want it to be fast. And the Prime Minister is helping us. He wants it to be fast too. And I think everybody in this, at this time in NATO, they want to see this thing happen. So we have a deadline, and after that, we're going to have a very much different attitude. But I think it has a very good chance of getting done.
The meeting moved to the Oval Office. There, President Trump and his Norwegian guests answered questions from the press. When asked if he still thinks Ukraine should give up some territory to get peace, Trump said, well, depends on what territory. And about the concessions Russia offered to move toward peace, Trump said,
stopping the war, stopping taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
Let's take a minute and think about it. So, Russia, the one who started the war, could take all of Ukraine, but doesn't because it wants peace. Putin sends his army to kill Ukrainians to make peace happen. That sounds familiar. Oh, right, that's from the dystopian novel 1984 by George Orwell. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. We are living in a dystopian novel. Back to Oval Office. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio was also there. He said that Trump administration showed both Ukraine and Russia a path to peace. Now both sides must say yes.
This war is endable. Both sides just have to agree to it. We've shown them a pathway forward. We've discussed those ideas. It was a good meeting yesterday. There'll be good meetings over the weekend. We've shown them the finish line. We need both of them to say yes. But what happened last night with those missile strikes should remind everybody of why this war needs to end. It's horrible those missiles landed. What's even worse is there are today people that were alive yesterday that are not alive today because this war continues. And the president wants to stop it. And everyone should be thanking the president for being a peacemaker and trying to save lives. That's what we're trying to do here. It's not our war. We didn't start it, as you know. But we're trying to end the dying. We're trying to end the destruction.
And I agree with Mr. Rubio. The US didn't start this war. Russia did. And no one stopped it. Not even the countries that signed the Budapest Memorandum. One of them was the United States. Also, the attack Mr. Secretary talked about reminds us that Russia must be stopped. That's the only way to stop the war. But I still don't understand why leaders of the strongest democracy in the world are afraid to speak the truth. But the US stands for peace and justice, right? So, according to Bloomberg, they will now demand that Russia recognize Ukraine's right to have its own army and defense industry. Yep, that's the plan. According to Bloomberg, that could be part of a future peace deal between Moscow and Kyiv. It's expected that the US Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's already in Moscow, will raise this issue with Putin. I'm sorry, what? Who is Putin to decide if Ukraine gets to have an army or not? Who's holding back his terrorists right now? Ukrainian soldiers, that's who. And if Putin says no, what then? Will the US demand Ukraine disarm? Did I miss the moment when rewarding the aggressor became a part of peacemaking? Orwell popped into my head again. Let's end this episode on a more hopeful note. Here's a quote from the Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre, at the same White House meeting. He said, "Peace will come, and European partners are already investing in Ukraine's defense."
If there's a peace, and there will be a peace, we have a common responsibility in securing democratic Ukraine for the future. And the best security guarantee they can have is the ability to defend themselves. And we are investing in that.
And for those who still question how Ukraine uses Western aid, President Volodymyr Zelensky gave an answer. In an interview with American journalist Ben Shapiro, he explained the strict control from both Europe and the US.
When we were seeing in the very beginning of the war that Russia attempted to undermine the support and assistance coming from the United States, because the United States was the main donor, and they wanted to undermine this through fake news, through other tools. That is why we told at once that we are open, send the inspectors, and they were inspectors. So as for the audit, we're always ready to any audit. There's nothing to hide. We're absolutely open, transparent, and that is what's happening. There's all the reports available.
That's all for today. Thanks for being with us. We read your comments and we feel your support. Strength to our defenders. Glory to Ukraine. Like, subscribe, and see you next time.